Our economy has been in bad shape recently, and there's been a low level of consumer confidence, and there's fears of an AI bubble, and these fears of economic uncertainty are negatively impacting the economy. And now Trump is introducing a new bad economic policy to that mix of uncertainty within the economy right now. And that new policy is the $2,000 tariff checks that he is planning to send out. Now, this has not been passed by the House, Senate, or anything, and so it hasn't been successful yet. In fact, a lot of people are disliking this policy. Now, this policy is a very bad idea, in my opinion. It's horrible. First of all, there are three reasons that this is mainly bad. First of all, is it's going to spike inflation. Second of all, it's going to ruin long-term health. And third of all, we should use it to pay off the debt. So we don't have to cut other stuff that's more important. Also, it's expensive. So, the first reason, inflation. Now, a $2,000 check pretty much everyone doesn't seem like a lot to, it seems like a big, small-term check, and most people think that won't have a massive effect on inflation. Yet this will have a massive effect on inflation. Just look at what happened when we did the COVID checks during the COVID during COVID, and that shot up inflation. If you look over here, right here, this is around where inflation's. This is the COVID period. Now we were shut down and everything here, so people weren't spending money, and stuff like that. But as soon as the pandemic started to stop, and people were actually spending money, all of a sudden, the massive amount of money put into the economy, and particularly the stimulus checks, caused a skyrocket in inflation. And that's mainly because if you put a whole bunch of money in the system without increasing supply, and you just put a whole bunch of money in the system, that just increases demand, which a higher demand allows for companies to increase their prices as they're able to get more money out of the consumer, and consumers are willing to spend more. So this massive inflation here, that was partly caused by the massive amounts of stimulus checks. And it was caused by a couple other factors, but that was one of the main causes. The amount of government spending and stimulus checks. And something similar will happen here. And in fact, it's going to be much, much worse. It's all at one time, and it's not spread out. Where stimulus checks were more spread out, and during the COVID time, we actually had a low inflation, as you can see. So that set it off for a while, and the economy was actually bad. But now that Trump's going to send out a $2 trillion check, that's going to overheat the economy. And it's going to cause inflation to shoot up, and that's bad for U.S. consumers, as they don't want increases in prices. We're already at a higher level of inflation than what it should be at. 3%, that's too high. It needs to be around the pre-pandemic level, which is around 2% instead of 3%. It's about 50% higher than it should be. And this is already too high, so sending that amount of money into the market and all at once is going to spike inflation, which is going to make, first of all, that's going to mean that Trump's going to fail on one of his promises. It's going to hurt his promises even more. Basically saying his promises saying he was going to lower inflation and lower costs. And if he does that $2,000 check, it's going to hurt that, and it's going to shoot prices up. So it's going to hurt the economy, and it's not a good policy at all, simply because it's going to cause massive amounts of inflation. Now, I don't think it's going to shoot directly up to what it was before, but it'd still shoot up around to probably, it's going to shoot up. And another thing with that, it's going to increase the amount, increase interest rates because of that. Because what the government does when inflation is too high is that they try to higher interest rates. Now, they do that in order to limit the amount of money in the system, limit the amount of credit and debt in the system, which allows the money supply to go down, and that further reduces the amount of money everyone has, and then that allows there to be less demand, and that's what they do with with interest rates. Now, why is raising the interest rates bad? Now, it's bad because the higher interest rates makes it harder for the U.S. government to borrow, and that it increases interest rate costs. So our interest payments will start going up and increasing even faster than they were previously. So that's going to actually increase the debt, and we're already in a bad state with the debt right now. If you look at it currently right now, we are at $38 trillion in debt. That's a large amount of debt. That is larger than than the U.S. economy by about $7 trillion. And the deficit's increasing. And it's decreasing, but it's still, the national debt is increasing. And we'll have to borrow that $1.7 trillion if he puts the money into the system and actually causes, puts that money into the system and the inflation rate actually goes up, then there's going to be a increase in the amount, increase in our national interest, and we'll have to borrow that $1.7 trillion at a higher interest rate. So it costs more for the U.S. to actually spend, and that will increase the national debt over time, which is going to harm the future generations and harm our nation in the long run. So this short-term benefit of $2,000 is going to massively wreck the economy, and it's going to hurt our economic future within our nation. Another thing is that it's going to increase the deficit through another reason. And it's going to increase spending through another reason, not just interest rates. It's going to increase the debt simply by spending a lot of money. Now, if you look at the prices for the rebate, so it's $2,000 times 350 million people. And if you look at here, it's scientific notation, but that is equal right there to $700 billion. $700 billion. Now, that's a lot of money. That's going to increase our deficit to $2.4 trillion. Now, I wanted Trump, one of his campaign promises was to cut as much money as possible. And having that $2,000 tax rebate, that $2,000 credit there, it's going to increase the national deficit by $7 trillion. It's going to cut every single, that's going to remove every single benefit that he's done from the national deficit so far. And it's going to actually increase the deficit. And that's going to hurt the U.S. economy in the long run. And especially since, as I talked about this in an earlier episode, the national debt right here, that's already, the national interest, that's already bigger than defense. So if we keep spending this massive federal budget deficit, we're eventually not going to be able to afford these things. We can't afford them now, but it's going to be even worse. We're going to have to cut them even more in the future. And he's currently, and because he's still spending, because of this tax rebate, it's going to absolutely wreck everything. It's going to hurt the economy. It's going to hurt the national deficit, and it's going to increase the amount of, and it's going to increase the deficit. And this is why people are not supporting the tax rebate. They should use it to pay down the debt. Now, if you look at federal spending right now, you notice it's going up. But the federal budget deficit right now is going down. And that's because Trump has instituted new tariffs and basically a new tax. And if he does this tax rebate, it's going to shoot up again. And it's going to erase everything he tried to do. And we're supposed to be fiscally conservative, and we want as limited manipulation into the market as possible within governments. Because, again, it will cause issues within the markets. So him actually spending this money, it's not going to be good. It's going to increase the amount of the deficit. Also, because I was talking about how it was going to cause inflation to go up, they're going to raise interest rates. That's another thing. Since our economy is seen as on a tedious edge, where we have an AI bubble, we have tedious edge in the job markets, we have a lot of economic uncertainty right now. If he does this, and inflation does shoot up, and the Fed does raise interest rates, the GDP will go into recession most likely. And that's going to negatively hurt our domestic products, our gross domestic product. And that's going to actually decrease federal revenue, which is going to further increase the deficit. And that further increase in the deficit means even higher national debt, which is going to hurt, really, really hurt in the long run. We don't want to become a country that's saddled with so much debt that we can't fund anything. Similar to like Japan right now. They have, I think, 250% of their GDP. Now, they've been a stagnated economy. They have not reached new highs. And this has left their economy basically stagnant, not improving. Their economy is stagnant. They are not improving their productivity. Their economy is basically not moving. And as inflation continues to happen, their quality of life keeps decreasing. And if Trump does this plan, we might end up we'll get even closer to a situation like Japan, and we don't want to be like that because we are the major player right now, and we are the major defender of the free world against China. So we need to have our economy continuing to grow, and continuing to grow faster than China. Yet with this new plan under Donald Trump, it's not going to be a good thing. Because if you look at right now, the world debt clocks, we are like a lot higher than China right now. But if you look at our debt, we're also a lot higher. And one economic setback can ruin all these gains. They can ruin all the increase in our GDP in the last 4 to 5 years, and even past that. And this will help China catch up, and we don't want that. China's already on a teetering edge with their own economy, and we don't want to give them we don't want to help them actually fight against our economic growth. We don't want to help them at all. And with this Trump plan, he's indirectly helping them get closer to the U.S. And it's not going to be a good situation at all. And in my opinion, I've loved Trump's economic policy since now. Not loved it, but he's been okay on it. And his goal of cutting government spending has somewhat been successful, not the best. I wish he could cut more. But he's been actually successful in some of it. He's gotten inflation down. He's actually gotten the economy up. There's the deficit's decreasing. And all that's good. But if he does this, it will ruin our economic chances in the world. It will ruin our economy. And we don't want to, and we need to actually fight against, we need to actually keep our economy going, and we don't want to have a catastrophe like this, which in my opinion will happen with the tax rebate. And as soon as we actually end up getting a increase in, if he does this, increase in debt will ruin our long-term economic chances, and we need to do the best that we can to actually improve those. And hopefully he doesn't do it. It seems like Senate Republicans are strongly against this. And I probably think a decent amount of House Republicans are against it too. And luckily they control the purse. They control the amount of money. The House controls the purse. They control they control how the government spends and stuff like that. So, luckily, I think this won't pass. But I would start to worry for our long-term economic health. And I honestly would stop supporting Donald Trump completely. Because at that point, he's not doing what's best for the U.S. long term. He's only looking for short-term gains for political power. And if he does do that, and he does pass it, then I think we should just, I think eventually he'll lose a lot of popularity from it too. He'll probably get some short-term gain from it, but in the long run, I think he'll lose popularity from it too. So hopefully it doesn't pass, and hopefully we don't run into this situation. But if it does, then I would brace for short-term inflation, possible crash in the market, popping of the AI bubble, and a large increase in the debt, which could affect the long-term sustainability of our nation. So I just hope he doesn't do it, and it's way better if he doesn't.